Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first video podcast for 333, The Truth of Your Reality, a conversation between myself and the universe. I suppose the first thing I really need to address is why I've chosen to do these. It's been a long journey, and along this journey, after writing the book, I've got into discussion with a few people, and the response I have had has been really heartwarming. But the biggest thing to come from all of it is during the process when I've been releasing certain posts on Facebook or on my Instagram account. I've received emails of people just saying thank you for lifting them up. Thank you just for being positive and sharing some positivity. So as a basis for these little videos, I suppose its prime aim is to help people see things truthfully, because we're so preconditioned to already accept things before we've really ever delved and investigated. And anyone from a similar position or anyone who's noticed a few odd things in this universe, they'll quickly tell you things are not what we have been taught they are. I just believe that there's an underlying energy to everything, and that energy is consciousness. And as a species, our consciousness is rising. And I believe this is why so many people have struggled with old thought patterns when they look at them with a modern day brain. So these are some of the things we're going to start looking at and we're going to delve into. And everything I bring to the table, I promise I'll bring scientific evidence, and all the facts that I bring with it will be true. And after I show you certain things, ultimately it's down to you guys and how you interpret them. Everyone's truths are different, and usually they're based on our own perspective from our own thought patterns with what we've been preconditioned and what we've been taught. But anybody will tell you truth is never found that way. Truth is found by dropping all these preconditioned thought patterns, dropping all these preconditioned what you've been told and what you've accepted facts, and then beginning to look at the world again and the universe around you, almost like a child does. So after that little piece, I'd like to share with you my own experience, which was crazy, absolutely crazy. And there are people that are going to shoot it down straight away. But what I ask you to do during this video and after this video is take on board what I've shown you. The dots will either join and it will make quite a profound difference to your belief system, or you will naturally totally negate it for whatever reason, which I won't delve into. It's a video that's open for all, for both believers, non-believers, any race, any creed, any background. Because fundamentally, when you strip us from our exterior skins, we're all definitely the same deep down. Right, let's begin. About 2011 it was, I started waking in the middle of the night. That doesn't sound odd, but when I wasn't setting an alarm clock and my sleep pattern was quite regular, it was very odd. What I noticed straight away was that I was waking at 3:33. I probably didn't notice it straight away. That's me running away with my mouth a little bit, because I imagine there was probably a few times I just woke up, looked at my phone to begin with and just put it back down again. Anyway, after several times of it happening, it really started to get my attention. To say it started to freak me out a little bit is an understatement. At the time, I just opened my own tattoo studio. Things were looking great, things were very busy. And out of nowhere, this little anomaly popped up where I was waking at 3:33. Then things got even weirder. When I was out and about in my car driving, I'd notice cars with the registration plate 333. And then it started to be everywhere, on clocks in my car, on the speedometer in my car. I'd glance down and I'd see it. I'd be sat at work looking at my CCTV monitor, and I'd see, let's say, 12:33, 30-something seconds, or even 11:33 and 30-something seconds. Anybody that's had an experience with this phenomenon will sit there now nodding their head, because it's not uncommon. Later on in my journey, I started to realise that there were lots of people who see the 333 or 222 or 111. And my search has led me to discover that the ancients deemed these numbers master numbers and gave them certain attributes. Well, anyway, I started waking at 3:33. And then I started seeing 3:33 everywhere. My first line of inquiry was the internet, and I chose to search 333. I just simply punched it in and waited to see what would come up, as you do. And the first thing I found was that 333, load of images, half evil, which wasn't a thing I was expecting to see. Naturally, I was hoping to find something a little bit more in depth and a little bit more revealing on this subject. Well, anyway, I continued to look, and I discovered our ancestors gave numbers certain attributes, certain meanings, the numbers 1 to 9, individual numbers, and that number 3 had been given the number of truth. Just quickly, before I carry on, I'll just quickly add here that one of the great philosophical debates is whether numbers were invented or discovered, because a lot of the Greek mathematicians, their line of inquiry would have been nature and looking at nature, and that's where a lot of proportions and certain things, ratios, came from, the studying of nature. So going back to the number 3. Number 3 was given the number for truth. It was given the number for truth because number 3 is the only number that is the sum of its preceding numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 1 add 2 equals 3. No other number does this. So 3 in antiquity was synonymous with truth. Then I started to have a look to see what I could find regarding truth within religion, just a separate line of inquiry, and something I just felt with intuition was the right thing to do. After searching, looking for number 33 within religion, I discovered some interesting, very interesting facts. Jesus died aged 33 and after 3 days and 3 nights was resurrected. In pagan worship, all is done 3 times during rituals. In Catholic worship, they worship the Father, Son and the Holy Spirit. A trinity. The ancient name for God, Elohim, appears 33 times in the book of Genesis. The word Amen equals 33 numerically, if A equals 1, B equals 2, etc. The number of deities in the Vedic religion is 33. 33 is the numerical representative of the Star of David. Islamic prayer beads generally consist of 33 beads, sometimes in sets of 3 to correspond to the 99 names of God. Now these examples are just a few. There are tons more. After noticing the connections in some of the religions, I then noticed the 33 in religious symbology. First one I noticed, I've just touched up on, and it's the Star of David, which is a 3-sided shape, overlapping a 3-sided shape. So a numerical representation of 33. Then I saw it in the Om, the Hindu sign, the symbol for Atman, the soul. That is a clear number 3 when you look at the image. Then I was compelled to look into Islam to see if I could find anything regarding a symbol for 33, this connection to truth. And what came back after meditation was quite profound. You, my listener, might not think so, but for me it was. Something after my meditation, something inside led me to go on the internet and to search how the Arabs wrote a number 3. And then when you compare how the Arabs write a number 3 to the symbol for Allah, there is, I'm sorry, it's so profound. It's crazy, but it's beautiful. It was now really getting my attention. What was coming more to me after meditating was that there's a consciousness that seems to, there's an higher energy that's connecting all these religions and so much more. It's not just a religious thing by any stretch, because I'm not religious, and yet somehow I've got embroiled in all of this. But it seemed to be synonymous with truth. Now I stand from a standpoint as I don't follow any or practice any religion. I don't practice any religion, but what I do is I live now by what I know is the right way to live. There's a great saying from Bruce Lee, which is, to know is not enough, one must apply. And I knew that saying for many years, but I've only really adopted it the last few years, where I balance the trinity of the mind, body and the spirit. So even though I'm not practicing from the doctrines of any religion, I do certainly look after this vessel that carries me around from day to day. So the first thing I realised was that there was a connection between these religions and this symbol that kept coming through for truth. Now, being that these religions themselves wasn't aware of this connection, and being that a lot of religions or a lot of people within religion will negate other religions to kind of enforce their own faith, what I was revealing was showing an opposite truth. If there was a God, an all-defying being, then it was clearly sending a message through all these religions, and not one was being singled out. That to me was profound, because I hear so many people speak from the perspective of their own belief, and they're so quick to negate the beliefs of others. I even got into discussion once with a Christian guy in my local town giving out leaflets, who, God bless him, turned to me and told me that basically I had to follow Jesus Christ and no one else. I asked him just a simple question, if he believed in the Quran as well as the Bible, and he shockingly turned around and told me that the Quran was the devil's work. I looked him in the eyes, I told him that I would say a prayer for him, shook his hand and I walked away. What came from me after that discussion, to me again, was profound. There was a man there who is standing there saying he believes in God. Obviously a very literal version, because the standpoint is quite childish, the perspective some people have. But for him to believe in God, he quite clearly was standing in direct opposition to any other faith or religion. Now that isn't God's work, that's man's work, that's ego. That's the frightening thing, why people spray tan themselves orange and why people stick crap in the foreheads. We live in a very, well, we don't live in a very egotistical, by nature, if you don't control that beast, their ego is quite frightening. And this guy was definitely, his ego was barking at me. So this revealing of the number 3 and 33 kind of transcended for myself the belief system that you can't kind of follow one religion and not another. What it showed me was that all these religions somewhere must contain a truth. At the same time as all of this, I was looking a lot at quantum physics. That just blew me away, especially the double slit light photon experiment. If anybody out there wants to have a look and see and have their mind opened up to the potential of this universe and how this universe really works, look at the double slit light photon experiment and consciousness and how consciousness manifests matter. This is something I'll never give a talk on because I'm no quantum physicist, but it's something that at ground level, when you look at it, if you're at that level of awareness already, it should kind of shake your foundations of what you perceive to be real. We will get into discussions later on in the podcast kind of around, based on this information, but I'm certainly not coming from a standpoint where I would ever want to try and throw facts out regarding quantum physics other than the short things that I've learned and I know to be true and backed up by science. So this was the first thing that had got my attention. I started to notice then this 33 was being used in other societies, like the Freemasons, the Scottish Rite Masonry, the Iced Order, I do believe is the 33rd Order. This took my brain down other thought paths, which I won't go into now. Anyway, on my journey, later on my journey, I went to a beautiful little time-out location and did some meditating for the weekend with a group of like-minded people. During this weekend, I befriended a guy from London. He was a rapper, of all things, which is cool because we all come from different... It's amazing how diverse our walks of life can be. Yet when something resonates within us, how quickly we can connect with people from different areas and different cultures. Well, we got talking, and basically he actually got talking first because I've got tattooed on my left hand 333, and I'd noticed this guy was doing quite a bit of staring and looking away when I'd look at him and smile. After a few hours, when people started to get a little bit more relaxed with each other, he came and started talking to me and opened up. After introducing himself, he opened up with the craziest question, which was, have you been sent here to kill me? Anyone who knows me knows that I've got a good... I'd like to think I've got a good sense of humour, and I don't kind of hold back on my feelings if I think them good and they need sharing. I literally just burst out laughing and just put my arm around this fella. Naturally, this led into a conversation, a very deep conversation. And what kind of unfolded was that this fella had been seeing 333 himself, and once he'd seen the 333 on my hand, he'd put 2 and 2 together, came up with 5 and thought I'd been sent to take him out, and that he'd been seeing the 333 as some kind of forewarning to me coming. Anyway, naturally, I told him that wasn't the case. I could have played him up for a little bit, I suppose, but I chose not to. To be honest, I was that excited that for the first time I was stood in front of someone who was having the same phenomenon as myself, and I hadn't already mentioned anything in any kind of group discussion about this for him to latch onto, so I knew he was coming with genuine inquiry. Anyway, the meditation weekend concluded and I swapped phone numbers with this fellow and emails, and it was several weeks later I got a phone call quite late at night. Now this is when it gets really weird for myself. Anyone looking in from the outside, this can't confirm your truth, because naturally, if you was to accept everything I would say blindly, you would miss in its entirety the whole point of these discussions. You can only take my word for what I'm about to say, and I do promise I'm telling the truth. Anyone close to me who knows me personally will know these are truths. After the phone call with this guy from London, this rapper, during this phone call, with the guy from London. It's unfolded that he joined the dots that I was the third born of three boys, which I'd never realised because I'm the youngest of three sons to my mother, obviously, and that my name, Wade, my birth name, if A equals 1, B equals 2 and C equals 3, my name Wade equals 33. To say I nearly fell off my chair during this phone call. I literally nearly fell off my chair. I remember putting the phone down. I was absolutely tingling from head to toe, just the energy running all over my body. And it was another one of those profound, crazy moments. Anybody who's ever had a similar experience, like mentioned earlier, you can't define it with words. There'll be times when dots join and what are facts become the join other facts, and then all of a sudden there's a knowing reached that's beyond someone just telling you something. It rings true deep within your soul. All of a sudden I knew all this was no coincidence. To me, the universe was saying, if you've doubted any of this, this is the universe's way of showing you this was going on before you was born. I played no hand in being the third born of three boys, and certainly played no hand in the naming of myself. That'd be awesome if you could. Especially for a long time, I was at school and I used to absolutely hate my name, and I just wanted a normal name. Because Wade in 70s and early 80s England wasn't a name that was really used at all, so it was a strange one why my mother had chosen it for me. So taking all this on board for myself, there were naturally lots of profound experiences along the way attached to these numbers, from booking holidays and jumping on couches to the hotel and looking up and seeing it was couch 33. I'm being so honest, and in my honesty I hope it opens the door of inquisition from everybody listening, unless you're already there, and God bless everyone. For me, the biggest thing to come out of all of it were the three truths that I put forward in the final chapter of my book, and that is that God, or a universal consciousness, exists. Not the God we've been taught, or the God we've been led to believe, this man type figure that's angry. Quite the contrary, which we'll get into in later discussions. But there's definitely an energy, and from my perspective, God itself is the universe, just like a living organism, and we're all small parts living out separate realities that contribute to the existence of this living organism. Pretty much totally along the, not even pretty much, but again along the lines of nature itself. There's a pattern which we'll get into in later discussions. The other two truths that were revealed to me was the acceptance of we. If truth can be seen in all religions, and there's this repetitive sign that it's there, then on ground level, why are we arguing? Why are people arguing amongst themselves? Why are people judging one another? The first thing of any religion anyway would be, if you believed in an higher force, you should never judge yourself. And yet people still follow these thought patterns, standing in opposition to God's creation, which is all of us. We're not just skin and bones whizzing through space at thousands of miles an hour. We are whizzing through space at thousands of miles an hour, but we're not just skin and bones. We're all, every single one of us, bigger than that. And that comes from knowing, not from believing anymore, which I hope, as said, these discussions lead you to this very door, because my life since having these revelations and awakening have just changed so much for the better. Much more positive in life. And I've had my crap, as we all have. I don't believe life takes exception on anybody. But this journey's even brought me to a conclusion that life's hurdles are not really punishments. It's the way of the universe upgrading you, because everybody through life's trials, unless it breaks you, that is, and we always have choice to suffer, through life's trials we can become a stronger version than what we previously were. I hope you've enjoyed this the final truth. And the final truth is, and this is a big pill to swallow for everybody, we are miniature versions of the universe itself. As the universe creates, so do we. If your life is not going to plan, there's a good chance it has everything to do with the choices you've already made. We do get life trials thrown at us that are out of our hands, naturally. Deaths, illness. But a lot of illness, touching on that, can be prevented through choice. Again, we are creators. We do manifest our reality. And through these discussions, I hope eventually you'll see this. God bless all of you. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I hope over time my accent becomes much clearer, because I've never done this before. Peace, love and light, and God bless.